Tonight's State of Renewal, Barry O'Farrell reshapes the political landscape in New South Wales.
We've won tonight's seats, but not only have we not held before, we won tonight's seats we've never dreamed of ever winning.
Christina Keneally quits the leadership as voters tear the ALP to shreds.
The truth is, the people of New South Wales, who entrusted us with government for 16 years, did not leave us. We left them.
Also tonight, Libya's rebels on the march again, thanks to friends in high places. And Brett Stewart's happy homecoming to Brookvale, while the Swans fight back in a Melbourne nail-biter.
The clock's going to beat them. We've got to draw again at the G.
Good evening, Felicity Davey with ABC News. From the party of government to a spent force, State Labor's fall from grace is complete. Christina Keneally has resigned as leader after the ALP was forsaken by voters, fed up by 16 years of Labor rule. It's the biggest thumping at the ballot box in the nation's electoral history. Barry O'Farrell will command almost 3/4 of the seats in the lower house when he's sworn in as the 43rd Premier. Here's state political reporter Matt Wordsworth on a night to remember for the Coalition.
For 5 weeks he talked the talk in Sydney's West. Today he walked it, alongside the MPs who stole Labor's heart and heartland.
Well, at least 4 years.
Jeff Lee took Parramatta with a 25% swing.
I tell you, it's a sensational feeling for the people to actually put their support behind not only myself but the whole Liberal National state government.
Chief Inspector Brian Doyle will end a 27-year policing career after snatching Campbelltown.
I can make sure they'll be there for the little people and for the big people. Campbelltown will never ever be taken for granted again.
The size and scope of this victory stunned the Liberals.
Tonight's an amazing night for the Liberals and Nationals.
And shook the hardiest of Labor believers.
That people lost all faith in our ability to govern and our integrity in government.
The O'Farrell landslide will go down in the history books. A swing of about 17% against a government has never been seen before.
And I promise we won't let you down.
With 2/3 of the vote counted, the Coalition has already taken a majority, 51 seats. Labor has 21 and the Independents 3. A further 9 seats are still in doubt, including that of the former Premier, Nathan Rees.
Pointless sugarcoating this. It's been a shellacking.
More than half of Labor MPs, almost 1/3 of the Keneally cabinet, were put to the sword.
It's not just a bunch of Labor MPs who lose jobs out of something like this. There's 16 of my staff.
The career of former Education Minister Verity Firth is in the balance in Balmain.
It's a very interesting seat because the vote is really going all over the place.
One of the only bright spots for Labor is that somehow Carmel Tebbit managed to hang on.
The majority of people have voted number 1 for Labor here in
The Nationals joined in the bloodbath.
And defeating the 3 Labor-aligned independents in Dubbo, Tamworth and Port Macquarie.
I do think that there will be potentially some federal implications. I think that people are starting to realise that independents also equal instability.
Christina Keneally says she takes full responsibility for the defeat.
The truth is, the people of New South Wales, who entrusted us with government for 16 years, did not leave us. We left them.
Today she was among friends at her local church, and her only leadership role will be among the children of Our Lady of the Rosary.
Apparently I'm now responsible, given they all think I have a bit more time, I'm now responsible for the children's liturgy at Easter.
Former Deputy Premier John Watkins says Labor will elect John Robertson as opposition leader.
Under John Robertson as the new leader, he's going to have to play a critical role in getting rid of some of that stupid factionalism.
But this is Barry O'Farrell's time, and by the size of the victory, it's going to be an era. Matt Wordsworth, ABC News.
A huge majority in the lower house, but potential problems in the upper house, where Fred Nile and the Shooters and Fishers Party hold the balance of power. That means the coalition could be frustrated getting its legislation passed. The Greens used to hold sway in the upper house, but they were steamrolled in the O'Farrell landslide. Bridget Glanville reports.
They appeared as a team, but two of their high-profile candidates were missing.
I frankly think they're probably having a good sleep in.
The polls predicted Fiona Byrne would win the seat of Marrickville and Jamie Parker would take out Balmain. Votes are still being counted, but Carmel Tebbit could just survive. Greens leader Bob Brown denies his candidates are lying low.
I don't see any of the other candidates. I'll be interested to see how many candidates in that position you see at a party roundup press conferences this morning.
But the new Premier had 7 successful candidates by his side. The Greens picked up 2 or 3 seats in the upper house, but have lost the balance of power.
We've stood up, we're still in the count, and we'll be in the count for the rest of this week.
The Greens' hold on the upper house now shifts to the Christian Democrats and the Shooters and Fishers Party.
The Christian Democrats and the Shooters in general view themselves as having a smaller policy agenda. They're interested in their issues, and for most other issues of government, they're not interested in getting in the way of government.
The ABC predicts the coalition will have 19 upper house seats. It needs 22 to get their legislation through. The Christian Democrats and the Shooters will each have 2 seats. By joining forces, Barry O'Farrell will have control.
I've had many, 21 bills in fact, on the table in the upper house, including prohibiting alcohol advertising, lifting the drinking age from 18 to 21. That would help control some of the binge drinking.
Plenty of negotiating to be had. Bridget Glanville, ABC News.
We've seen him win, we've heard his words, but just who is Barry O'Farrell? Deborah Rice has this profile of the Premier-elect.
Barry Robert O'Farrell was born in Melbourne in 1959, but his family moved around with the Army. After finishing school in Darwin, he headed to Canberra to study Australian history, Aboriginal studies and politics.
Anyone who started university after the dismissal in 75, who tried to argue what I would say was the constitutional basis upon which that action had occurred and found themselves marked down by their lecturers and tutors, started to firm up their own convictions.
Barry O'Farrell's political career began behind the scenes as a federal staffer. He moved to Sydney in the late 80s, became Liberal Party State Director in 1992 and entered Parliament in 1995. He held several shadow ministries and for nearly 7 years he was deputy. His image was very different back then.
Big story, yes, but anything big about this is me.
But he lost weight, shaved off his beard and surprised everyone, ousting Peter Debnam after the disastrous coalition loss in 2007.
Barry O'Farrell takes on one of the most difficult jobs in politics.
The new opposition leader's first battle was cleaning up his party's image, badly damaged by decades of warring between the moderates and religious right.
Organisational reform designed to end the spectacle that we've seen in the past, a spectacle of disunity, division, factionalism and unacceptable behaviour.
The big turning point for Barry O'Farrell and the Liberal brand came in June 2008 when he took on the government over electricity privatisation. Suddenly he pulled ahead of the Premier in the polls and a few months later Maurice Yemmer was ditched by Labor.
The public no longer have faith in them, the public no longer trust anything they say.
Barry O'Farrell identifies as a Catholic, though he married and divorced early before meeting his wife Rosemary. He supported the stem cell bill and same-sex adoption. And a few years back, he admitted to an altogether different sin.
I'm impressed by Penny Wong and Julia Gillard, which won't earn me any friends anywhere. I don't agree with much of what they say, but as politicians, I think they're representatives that the public could and should be proud of.
Of course, neither Barry O'Farrell nor Julia Gillard were the leaders then. Now he'll have the opportunity to express his latest views directly. Deborah Rice, ABC News.
And state political reporter Matt Wordsworth caught up with the man himself just a short time ago.
Mr O'Farrell, first things first, when do you get sworn in?
Well, I'm meeting the head of premiers tomorrow. That'll then be unfolded. But look, the bottom line is Andrew Stone and I are keen to get to work, keen to start delivering on our promises, keen to try and deliver that real change we think will make a difference.
What about your cabinet? Will it simply be the shadow cabinet?
Well, that's my expectations. We haven't had any electoral accidents on the way. But of course, again, that's an issue in a coalition that's negotiated between the leader, of the Liberal Party, leader of the National Party, and that will happen this week.
I know you've drawn up a 100-day plan. What's in it?
Well, what's in it is delivering on the 100 or so policies that we've put out there over the past a couple of years. So, our commitment to infrastructure in New South Wales there, to give this state a guide for growth in the years ahead. Our commitment to clean up the state's donation laws. Our commitment to undertake an audit of the state of New South Wales finances.
Of course, any legislation you need has to get through the upper house. Are you ready to deal with the right-wing parties there?
Well, whether the minor parties, whether the left-wing Greens, I'm happy to try and negotiate to get our program through. But as I've said repeatedly, I'm not going to make sidebar deals that sell out our principles, our plans or our commitments to the people of this state.
What about the Greens? You said that would be like dealing with the devil and that they were purely evil. Are they back in play?
Well, they'll have an opportunity with the disclosure laws that we will put up, extra donation reform, reforms they turned their back on last year, reforms that would help clean up politics. So I believe in redemption. They can prove themselves to be acting in the public interest by supporting some of those initiatives that they should be supporting and that will make a difference in New South Wales.
So what would Barry O'Farrell be like as a Premier?
Look, I want to be one that focuses at all times on the public's needs, is practical. I don't want to, for me it's about substance over style. I think the days of the soap operas are over. We need reality government in New South Wales, government that sees what is happening to families, government determined to fix those problems that families encounter.
Mr O'Farrell, thanks for your time.
Thank you.
And Tony Abbott seized on the New South Wales result as a rejection of what he calls federal Labor's toxic carbon tax. But ministers are playing down the national implications of the heavy defeat, saying the campaign was fought on state issues. Frances Bell reports from Canberra.
In the post-election wash-up, the lessons for Canberra depend on which side of the landslide you're on.
It's clear if you're a bad government that breaks promises and ignores the cost of living, then the voters will have a lot to say about you.
Well, this was a state election and the Liberals trying to claim this as something other is frankly ridiculous.
But the new Premier says his crushing victory was partly due to a voter backlash against the carbon tax.
You'd really have to be stretching the argument to claim that there was a change in voting intention over that policy.
Let them believe that, because what we will do is confirm in the minds of the Australian people and the people in New South Wales that they're not really listening.
One reality the Gillard government can't ignore is that 3 states are now under Liberal or coalition rule. Federal ministers are playing down the prospect of any COAG showdowns on infrastructure funding or the National Health Deal.
You can reach agreement for the interests of people when you work in a consensus fashion. That's what Prime Minister Gillard's been doing.
Tony Abbott says despite the emphatic coalition victory, it may not cure what Anna Bligh once described as the New South Wales disease, where the Labor leadership was treated as a revolving door.
The Sussex Street death squads, if you like, came to Canberra when Kevin Rudd was assassinated, and they are still there.
But the electoral drubbing wasn't limited to Labor. 3 state independents were also tossed out after suffering heavy losses to the Nationals. 2 of them were in seats which fall into the federal electorates of Rob Oakeshott and Tony Windsor.
A lot of voters wanted to try the independent experiment. It's an experiment that hasn't worked, and I think they're ready now to support one of the parties that can actually form government.
Those who are suggesting that this is all about a referendum on what happened 6 months ago are out of line. The referendum that I'll have to face is in 2.5 years' time.
And plenty of headwinds in the meantime. Frances Bell, ABC News, Canberra.